Excellent. John, what else? I know you've done some research back at the office. Any other kind of fun stories or things you want to share with us?
Well, I found it interesting that there was a lot of ice cream that was being produced here. Albertsons opened their first store at 16th and State in 1939, and by at least 1941 they were already advertising that they were making their own brand of ice cream, which was known as Dutch Girl. That it even became a brand that was used in some other areas. I know Eugene, Oregon, they still have Dutch Girl ice cream over there, even though Albertsons isn't connected to it anymore. Albertsons had an ice cream factory that, if people are familiar with the old Jerry's Market on 27th Street over by State Street, there's a building just to the east of Jerry's that today it's a nondescript building that's kind of a tan colored. There are no signs out that show what it's used for. I'm not sure what it's being used for today, but that's where Albertsons made their ice cream, and it was sold in, at least in the early 40s, in all of their stores that, at that time you had the State Street store, ones in Nampa, Caldwell, and Emmett, before they started expanding into other states. There was also another old department store, C.C. Anderson's, that they had a food store downtown, and that same year, 1941, they were making their own ice cream, and they said that they could produce something like 20 gallons in 10 minutes or something. And they even claimed they had 20 flavors, which seemed like, when I was growing up in the 60s, seemed like chocolate vanilla, chocolate chip. Those were the main standards. So to hear that in 1941 they had 20 flavors that they were offering seems really quite remarkable. Mm-hmm. I also found an ad that year. The U.S. got into World War II with the December 7th bombing of Pearl Harbor, but in June of that year, as there may have been concerns that the U.S. might be getting into the war, I found an ad that said that ice cream was a great health type of food, and that the national defense needs good health. And this ad had like 8 different places downtown that were selling ice cream, from Blue Latimer that was at 9th and Idaho, Dandy Confectioners at 9th and Main, Heller's Confectionery, 10th and Bannock, Purdy's, 9th and Bannock, Up to Date Confectionery at 10th and Main, Walker Drug Company, 8th and Bannock, Walgreens, 8th and Idaho, and Don Whitehead Drugs at 800 Main Street. So, that's a lot of ice cream just in the downtown Boise area in 1941.
Oh my gosh.
Blue Latimer, that was the one with the beautiful marble. Mm-hmm. That was beautiful. Dual soda fountain, just a beautiful shop.
They were a long-time drugstore.
We'll go back to one for Robert here. I know you're still into cars, right? And you've had a long history of being into. Do you think was Boise back in the '60s a big hot rod city, and did that help contribute to the drag of the drive-ins?
Every self-respecting male teen had to have a car that was better than just a stock car, and they put different hubcaps and white walls and loud mufflers and all that stuff on them, and it was kind of a rite of passage to cruise town in a circle over and over and burn up that gas. and traveled from one end of town to the other to see who was hanging out where, and it was just kind of the teen culture. I know it was in a lot of places in the United States, but you know, there were some curb service drive-ins, like Murray's downtown was curb service, and the Howdy Partner up on Fairview was curb service.
So Howdy Partner, that's the one where the girls got on the roof and did shows, or did you ever see that?
That was at the Howdy Partner. They had a DJ that DJ'd from the roof in a glass cage up there, and they had dances. There was a dance floor on the front part of the roof, and they had girl dancers up there. You know,
I remember seeing some articles about that. It looked amazing.
they had clothes on though.
Barely, right? Okay.
Gone is an era.
All right. I think we've covered a lot of the history. Any topics you think were eras we've missed that?
I think another thing that really kind of led to the Boise Valley as a big ice cream place was that there were a lot of dairy farmers in the valley. Meridian, Boise, Emmett, Nampa, Caldwell, all had a large number of dairy farms, even up through the 1960s and so forth. So there was a lot of milk being produced, and I think that was just a natural outgrowth of that milk production, and something that could be easily made and people liked.
Yeah, so there's a lot of dairies like Triangle Dairy, and I remember seeing a whole lot of ads in the paper for different types of dairies. Do you remember who you might have got milk from back when you were? Which dairies or milk, maybe the milk delivery system?
I just always remember Triangle Dairy delivering milk to our front door. We had a box out there, a dairy box, insulated dairy box, and this was in the north end up on North 17th, but we would get the bottles of milk with the bubble top with the cream in the top, and my mom always saved the cream off the top of those bottles. But you know, it just kind of amazes me that they delivered eggs, milk, ice cream. They had all this stuff on those dairy trucks, and they weren't that big, but I don't know. I just, you know, and they had all different, you know, like 2% milk and whole milk and cream and whipping cream, and they delivered all that stuff right to your front door.
In the late, I don't want to,
Yeah, I'm not going to turn it to you. You're okay.
in the late 50s, they had a lot of arranged fights.
A lot of what?
Arranged fights and spontaneous fights. And they would go to places like Howdy Partner or Murray's or Arctic Circle, which is, I guess, sort of next to Howdy Partners. Did a block or something there. And they would meet there, and then the guys might fight right on the spot. The rings fight might occur right on the spot. Like Murray's people would go there, being drunk, looking for them.
The trouble.
I hung out at all three of those places, and I don't. There might have been occasional fights, but I don't ever remember gang fights.
We were going to
I could.
One-on-one.
It did happen, but I don't think it was that common.